The art of live video production. It's something that we care a great deal about here at Wirecast and Telestream, and something we try to do every Thursday right now, live, Facebook and YouTube. So we're going to be talking to somebody who knows a lot about it, and is actually won one of the most prestigious awards you can win for video production in category number 87. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but I'm glad you're joining us. Please welcome, sit down, relax. This is Wirecast Live, and we are live right now. Welcome. We'll see you right after these opening credits. Welcome to Wirecast University. Or whatever you want. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Wirecast Live. I'm your host, Andrew Haley, and each week on Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time, we are live here on Facebook and YouTube, and we talk about everything related to live video production, and a whole lot more. So if you are new and you're joining us for the first time, please welcome. We're glad to have you. If you're watching us on demand on our YouTube channels, we post all of our episodes there, and we're actually climbing into the hundreds range, the 3 digits now. So we have some really good episodes you might want to go back and enjoy. And if you are a longtime viewer, thank you and welcome. Either way, type hello, say where you're watching from in the comments, either on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll try to get those up and running. In fact, I think we had a little bit of a ghost of a remnant of one of them on the screen, so they may or may not work right now, but we will see if we can pull those up here, and let's just make sure if those are working or not. So definitely let me know if we can get those firing. I can always restart or refresh the NDI output. But we'll see. Either way, I'm going to be able to read them, as will our guest. Yeah, it looks like that ghost is still there. It's not firing correctly. So we'll see. Maybe we can fire that up by the end of the show. But believe me, we are getting your comments and we can read them, so no worries. I will ask them throughout the show. If you would like to get notified for upcoming episodes, our upcoming production schedule, who's coming on the show, what topics we're going to be talking about, you may want to head over to our email list, which we talk about at the top of every show, just in case you're new here. And you can head to telestream.net/wirecastlive and sign up, and we'll send you just emails about the show, what topics, what guests we have. We don't spam you. We don't share your emails with anyone, so totally safe. And you can always unsubscribe if you hate our emails for some reason. So check that out if you're curious. You can also follow us live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter at the following handles. So Telestream Wirecast on Facebook, and at Wirecast on YouTube, or at WirecastTube, or just Wirecast on YouTube. I actually changed that name. Either one should work, but the old one was WirecastTube back when I started here so many years ago. Okay, so for today we have a great show in store for you. We're going to be talking about the art of live production with an award-winning video producer from the East Coast, and he's going to be joining us live. In fact, he's on the line right now. So let's go over just quickly what we're going to talk about. We're already in the announcements phase of our show, so we'll be have one or two more announcements, and then we'll get to introducing our guest for today, award-winning and video producer Ben Ratner. And then we'll be talking about live production with him, how he does what he does, how he approaches live video, and we'll look at some of the work that he's done. And in fact, one of the shows that he produced, which helped win an Emmy in interactivity, which is something that Enemies, I'm sure it also won, which probably happens when you're the winner out of four other contenders, but no, well, I don't have any confirmation on that. But either way, we're going to talk about that. We'll be talking about how he approaches it, what skills he thinks, and sort of how he is kind of does what he does today. He's actually now working on Startalk, another really cool show all about the cosmos and science. It's, I think, really leading the pack when it comes to science media and sort of cutting edge technology shows. So I think that'll be a really fun discussion as well. And then finally, if you guys have Q&A, we will be taking any questions at the end as well as throughout our conversation. So there should be lots of good stuff for you guys throughout the show. So please enjoy. And before I bring on our guest, two quick announcements. We had a giveaway last week for The iOgrapher, the new multi-case. So if this was something that you were really interested in, we actually didn't see a lot of entries. So if this is something you want to go for, it works with iPhones, it works with Android. The only rule, actually this is an older one, the new one's right here. So if you want to win this, it works with almost any size phone. It works with your protective cases. It's super portable and handy. We're going to extend that giveaway another week, and then we'll have Dave on hopefully next week to help us announce a winner. The only way to win one of these cool things is to stream live from your phone using Wirecast Go. So that's the only rule. You have to stream live from your phone using Wirecast Go. That is an iOS app, so it only works on iPhone. Sorry, you might have to borrow somebody else's iPhone if you're an Android user. Just borrow it, just do a quick stream, and then put the hashtag Wirecast Go on it, and hashtag I need iOgrapher. So 2 hashtags, and we can put those up at the end of the show or put them in the links if you're curious. But just put those out there, and it's just a short stream. Show us what you can do. Show something cool, something unique, something fun, and Dave is going to send one of these to the lucky winner. And I can tell you right now, the field's pretty open, so it does not require a lot of work right now, and you may very well be the winner for one of these. And Dave may hook you up with some other cool stuff, too. I don't know. We'll see. So that's our announcement right now. And then the final thing is next week, our guest, our episode, if you're curious, is going to be with Elgato. We're going to be talking with Phil from Elgato and talking about their control surfaces, how to use them, how to optimize them, and some of the news that they have going on there for Elgato. They make a really cool a dynamic controller called the Stream Deck, which we will get into. So that is my announcements for the week. Without further ado, I'd like to jump into the show and bring in our guest who has been waiting patiently on the line with us. So I'd like to introduce award-winning video producer Ben Ratner, joining us live from New York. Right, Ben?
Live from New York. Yeah.
It's Ben Ratner. Welcome. Ben, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I hear it's pretty cold out there right now.
It ain't warm, I'll give you that. It's better than Chicago, but it's still not pleasant to be outside.
I bet. I like your background there, by the way. It really does have a Tonight Show type feel here. You've got the whole skyline there.
Thank you. Unfortunately, this is like a view from Brooklyn, and yeah. I'm from Queens, and we don't get along because it's too hard to get to each other.
Too hard to get to.
Is that cool the background.
Brooklyn Bridge I see in that?
That would be the Brooklyn Bridge, what you cannot see from miles from where I am.
Right. Okay, well,
TV's fake, everyone.
You know, it is, but it's working. And that's actually one of the first tips we can get into, which is how do you produce award-winning video and TV? Maybe first thing is put up a great background.
Yeah, it's, the differences between just a random person just streaming off of their phone and putting just a little bit of work into things makes all the difference in the world. I mean, I plugged in a cheap camera and I have a small light set up in a background, but you could do just little things that make your streams look better than anyone else if you put in literally the least amount of effort. There's so many people putting less than no effort into their stream. So all you have to do is try just a little bit. And that's video production in general, but yeah, just try a little.
Just a little. So that actually leads me to a great point, which is that how, obviously you've got some shows under your belt. You're an experienced video producer. You're a certified TriCaster user, and you know Wirecast. You know most of the solutions out there that are very big in this space. We met when you were originally working at Roker Media and kind of in their sort of mad scientist lab, and that led you to working on a show around, that we'll talk about that actually ended up winning an Emmy called Never Settle from Mario Armstrong. We'll play some clips from there. Could you just give us a quick overview of your career so far and how you sort of came to where you are now, which is producing video for Startalk Radio?
Sure. Briefly, I first learned about media, the TV industry. My middle school actually had a TV studio, so I started doing TV stuff back in 7th grade. Fast forward, college, yada, yada. I went to Ithaca College for TV, radio production. Right out of school, I ended up working for a local news station, New York One News here in New York, #1 market, #1 station. I worked there for a whopping 2 months before I answered a Craigslist ad that literally said, "Come work for a talk show in a basement." That talk show If any of you know Opie and Anthony, that was Anthony Cumia's talk show. He said a series of things that he should not have said. Got himself fired from SiriusXM, and I ended up basically running all the tech, some of the marketing, a lot of the fan engagement around that show. We ended up building a Manhattan studio for that show. We grew a whole talk show network out of it. I left there. Then I went to work for Al Roker's Roker Labs, it was called at the time, which was basically a live streaming production company. We were doing thought leadership in that as well, trying to figure out what the best ways to do live were. And this was right as the APIs opened up on social streaming. So this was right when Facebook started, right when Periscope started. YouTube had live streaming via RTMP and the ability to do solid streams for a while, but it wasn't the thing that it was kind of now or even 2 or so years ago. And then after that, I ended up working full-time with Startalk with Neil Tyson. I've actually been with them for about 5-6 years now in smaller capacities, but I was ready to up my commitment to that show. So now I'm here, but I'm still, live streaming is my bread and butter. I love nothing more than live streaming. I love where the industry has gone, how cheap and accessible everything has gotten. So live streaming is deep within me.
I completely agree. I mean, having looked at some of your work, this is just having talked with you back when you were just trying different things. I love the Facebook users group you co-managed and sort of admin, and there was always really interesting news. You were always on top of the latest technologies in the live streaming space, and it was just a great sort of thought leadership place that you'd put together. Are you in any way involved in that, or have you moved on to other groups on Facebook that you could recommend for people who want to get involved and sort of in a community that you think is going to help them up-level their live streaming game, either from a technology and news perspective or just from a tips, tools, and a supportive community?
Sure. That group still exists. It's called Live Streaming Managers. I would say that group has followed the trajectory of live streaming. That's kind of hit a plateau right now. There's still lots of live streaming going on. It's just not the cool, exciting thing that it was 3 years ago, but it's reached a maturity phase. So you don't get as many people asking kind of basic questions in there, which you're totally welcome to do if you do join the group. You get different kinds of things. You see more new features or new ways that people are using live streaming. So if you're interested in live streaming, that's a great group to join. Someone not necessarily in the live streaming industry that I follow closely is a fellow by the name of Matt Navarra. I don't know how to spell his last name because he just shows up in my feed, but he manages to find out about features before anyone, all over the social thing, particularly with Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So he's someone I look to see when new features exist, or even if they're in beta and they're not out to everyone yet.
Well, that's really good advice. So a couple of the folks in the audience, it looks like you have buddy John Burgess, perhaps? I'm not sure. It seems like he's making some inside jokes there. And then...
not sure if he's a buddy. Moving on.
And then we also have... a couple other folks tuning in. One person said my audio level. It looks like Danny says my audio level is a little low. I did bump that up a little. Let me know, or let us know if that's still an issue during the show. So Ben, I want to actually play some clips from sort of your days at Roker Media with the Never Settle show.
Sure.
And then we can actually see what this is. Then we'll cut to maybe a little clip from the Emmy show where it won, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's bring on. This is the show that won. You guys won an Emmy for this, a local Emmy. John Burgess is quick to point out in the New York, I think, TV market. So I didn't actually.
Yep, it is a regional Emmy.
Regional Emmy. All right.
Regional Emmy for New York. It's through the NATAS. The National Academy, but they kind of have regional versions of it. So I was in the New York region for this.
Got it. Which is still no small accomplishment considering just how big that TV market is. And so, and I think it just sounds way better just to shorten it to Emmy than to say award.
Yeah, it's easier. Emmy. There's like rules that you're supposed to call it, but not everyone follows those.
So this is a show, it's a talk show called Never Settle. The host is Mario Armstrong. We're going to play a quick clip from this, and this was the show you guys won the Interactivity Award for. So here we go. Make sure we have audio.
ready?
So just in the show opening alone, I can see that like showing kind of where people are tuning in from. It's almost like a social Game of Thrones like tour of the country with comments and stuff like that. Kind of map, I think. And I may have to
I mean,
refresh this.
yeah, I mean, the fans really dictated what was going on in this show. You know, they chose segments, they chose what we were going to go to next. We did live stream production meetings before each show where people can give their feedback. There's Mario running in a number one costume.
Yep, I actually love this costume. Was this dictated by the fans as well, or just something he thought would be really fun to kind of get the audience hyped up?
Not only was it not dictated by the fans, but he didn't tell us that was going to be happening. He was in the control room a minute before the show, you know, not wearing a number. And all of a sudden, he's just out there with a number one on live TV.
That's hilarious.
It was a special moment.
Yeah, that's amazing. You guys are like, okay, I guess we're filming. I bet you thought it was a banana costume at first.
I don't know what this...
Because I thought it was a banana costume. That was my first thing. So we're having some trouble like loading the clip here. But if you guys are curious, you can go to search for Never Settle. Well, it looks like we're playing now.
I'm wearing this number one because...
You forgot that you need the microphone.
We won an award this year. We did.
Yep, there it goes again. So bandwidth issues, everybody. But at least you're coming through pretty clear. So yeah, so this is sort of you said this is filmed. The studio's really nice. The setup's very good. You can actually see that comments never stop coming on the screen. I think like you guys, it's like wall to wall interactivity.
So we actually had 2 seasons that were done 2 different ways. What you're looking at right now is from season 2. We actually recorded that at the NASDAQ studios in Times Square, which was really freaking cool. Mm-hmm. But season 1, we completely did on our own. You know, we brought in all the equipment each week. And we could talk about some of the differences in kind of, let's call it remote versus kind of professional production. You know, things that anyone can achieve depending on your resources and things you have available. But the comments, they were really important. We used software called VidPresso, which was actually just acquired by Facebook.
Yeah, we're familiar with them.
They were a big key to the interactivity in these shows.
That's cool. So you were able to push all the comments live all the time. And how was Mario up front viewing them? Did he have a little monitor of the feed itself, or did you guys just push straight up just one for the comments to him?
Sure. There were a couple different things. First of all, if there was anything super important, we'd whisper it into his ear. Mm-hmm. Also, he had his phone up there the entire show, so we could look right into the phone. We want to show people that he was personally engaged in the comments. Mm-hmm. We also had comments up on big screens that he can see. Okay. So basically, no matter which way he looked, he was able to look at the comments.
That makes sense.
There was also a difference in the comments that sometimes that went up on screen compared to the ones that we tried to key him in towards.
Okay.
People just repeating lines from the show. It's helpful for the user to see that, but not necessarily him to see that in real time.
Got it.
But we also used information from the comments to see what to do with the show. If we were getting a lot of comments, lots of engagement, we'd keep doing that segment longer. If people were kind of tuning away, we would cut that short or move to something else. If they said they wanted to see something happen, ask a question, we would get that question asked. So we really used particularly Facebook's comments to really make the show what it was. And I think that's why we were recognized for interactivity, because everything we did in some way, shape, or form, the audience had
input on. Yeah.
Yes.
So do you, is that something that, I mean, did you even know that interactivity was a category until you guys won an award for it?
No clue. What I knew we wanted to do was make a show. He's tried to sell this show to a bunch of TV networks. It hasn't quite gotten there. When he came, I actually met him at a meetup. I heard about this show, and when I just started at Al Roker's company doing live streaming, we brought him in, and it was just a perfect opportunity. Live streaming was coming to a place where we could do this full-scale talk show and, not use, broadcast budgets, traditional TV budgets, and also do something in a way that it hasn't been done before. So we did something that I like to call platform perfect production. Mm-hmm. We made a show that catered exactly towards the places that it was going to live and how people were going to see it and interact with it. So that meant taking advantage of the social features. That meant taking advantage of general audience interactivity. And some things Facebook was able to do that Instagram wasn't able to do. For example, we chose not to stream the show on Instagram, first of all, because the first season Instagram Live didn't even exist.
Right.
But even as of today, there's not a public ability to stream high-quality API or RTMP streams to Instagram. So, we chose not to even deal with Instagram for that, but we would use Instagram to get fan interactions before the show. Mm-hmm. Send in your pictures in the audience and we'll put them up on screen, or they'll be on the set behind Mario. So we used each platform specifically in the ways that they were designed to do, and we just took advantage of every available feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you think that the sort of the premise of the show is inspire the human spirit, teach lessons that matter, uncover new perspectives? So this is really almost like a Oprah type show where I think the goal is to inspire the human spirit, show people how they can improve their lives, give them practical tips, and then kind of a place to kind of come watch, join in, and get ideas, give inspiration, share inspiring stories, and then kind of go away positively and that kind of thing. So I feel like that is literally the perfect premise for a show that's all about interactivity too, right? That needs interactivity to thrive.
Definitely getting some Oprah vibes with the show. And again, this is the kind of thing, it might not have, a huge 20 million people audience, but we were able to target the right audience and get the right people interested in the show. And we were really able to get the show to the people that wanted to see it in a way that they might not have had this direct interactivity with a show that, asking them what they want, we were able to do that. I'm not sure if that would happen, on an NBC broadcast show.
Right. Yeah, and being able to like switch, sort of make segments go longer and kind of switch in the moment and change based on input you're getting from the audience. That seems like a very complicated sort of thing to do behind the scenes. What were some of the big challenges you encountered while producing that show? Was it around the interactivity? Was it kind of more how you communicated with the host to make sure that the show stayed on track? Did you guys always go long? Like, how long was each episode supposed to be?
Each episode was planned at about an hour, but because we don't have constraints, we could go a little shorter, a little longer. Again, we did I think our Damon John episode that we did went long because we got this cool guy on and people want to hear from him. Mm-hmm. So, we have that leeway, and everything was cut down for social later, all that stuff. We had a full social media team behind the scenes. I don't know if you have a picture of the control room. You probably don't because I didn't send it to you. But the front row was basically, tech people, director, me as the TD, a couple other people. The back row filled with social people going through the comments, choosing the comments that were going to go on air, the ones that we needed to see from Mario. We would be in the Facebook Live analytics, looking literally at the viewership chart that Facebook didn't have yet at the time. They do now, to see, are people not watching anymore? Are they holding straight? Are more people watching? We would use every piece of data available to us to make the show kind of work in the way that we felt would work best for the audience.
That's really interesting that the social team was as big or bigger than the production team.
Yeah, no, it was, and definitely a strong collaboration because, the director of the show had to be able to hear from the producers, what should we be doing? What do we, so there was a lot of collaboration. Then we had to get that information to Mario as well out on the floor. So it was a definitely huge collaborative effort.
Got it. So tell me a little bit. So, if you guys have questions for Ben specifically on how they dealt with it, but I mean, I guess for me, what comes up when I wonder about producing a show like that, tell me more about what were the unique challenges you needed to solve. Was it where were failure points that you found most frequently that you were like, because there's always fires in live TV. You're always like finding the weakest point in your chain is always where things are starting to go wrong. Bandwidth, or maybe it's just the monitors. Let's start with bandwidth.
So we were at a production, not a production company, a security camera company called Canary. They were a startup. They had the kind of never settle attitude, and they were kind enough to let us use their lobby for the first season of the show. They did have good internet connection, but it was hard to get a dedicated internet connection. We were doing the show after hours, so there wasn't necessarily an IT person there. So one of the things that we did that gave me like a sense of reliability and trust is that we use something called LiveView to get our broadcast out.
Right.
LiveView, if you don't know, it's something uses technology called bonded cellular. It takes multiple cellular connections and puts them together in addition to Ethernet and Wi-Fi to make sure that you could send out a signal from anywhere. So we brought in our own internet, which, with everything else that can go wrong, the last thing you want to go wrong is internet. So that was definitely helpful. Other things that can go wrong, you're bound by the social networks. And Facebook, particularly for season 1, live streaming was still relatively new for them, particularly via RTMP. They didn't even have a full API yet for live streaming. So we'd have problems where, we couldn't get the comments going into the analytics system, or we couldn't get a connection literally to Facebook sometimes. We had to immediately before the show, restart the stream once or twice before everything was going on. So there were a couple things out of our control, but we ended up figuring out how to work with all of them. And the other thing was, it was a big production that we were doing on a dime. Sometimes things would break down. The IFB system wasn't perfect, so we had to figure out how to communicate with Mario from the floor in other ways. We've had cameras break down, microphones break down, a lot of just your typical things. And, we always had an extra microphone ready to go on set, wired, so there were no wireless problems. We had other cameras we can work with, things like that. Everything had some sort of redundancy other than the actual stream to Facebook, because at the time there was no secondary way to do a secondary backup stream.
So did you schedule the streams to Facebook in advance and use the whole event scheduling 1 week ahead of time that Facebook offered, or would you always just do a live now?
Season 1, that feature didn't exist, so we would just go live now, or it did exist and it was still a little wonky. Season 2, we completely did with the scheduling, so we can get people to know about the show in advance, get some comments and questions in advance. And what's nice about the scheduling is that all of those comments go right into the commenting API, so we were able to use those in any way we wanted to.
Did you have, and I'm going to try to get a little specific here, just so people can glean some information, since obviously Facebook Live is one of the most popular destinations for Wirecast users. Did you find that if the initial event, like if there's an issue getting the stream to it, that it would corrupt itself and you couldn't retarget a pre-scheduled event? Did that ever happen where, you'd scheduled a week in advance?
Yes.
What did you do in that situation?
What did we do in that situation? We put in the comments there was something wrong. We started a new stream. One of my I beg you features to Facebook is give us a way to point people towards another stream, or to give a second stream key to an event. It's a great feature. It's a little half-baked right now, and I'd like to see a little more development on that so it's strong and reliable.
The persistent stream keys that they've introduced?
Persistent stream keys are great, but even that, it's harder with scheduled events. And if there's something wrong anywhere in the RTMP chain, it might be hard to reconnect to your event. I've had a couple problems even recently with that. So I work with clients freelance. I tell people what to do a lot. I tell people what to do a lot because I like talking, and they pay me to do it. But I say, we're going to do this. It's 99% going to be fine. There is a chance there might be an issue there. If it is, our plan B is we're just going to start a new event and make sure we let as many people know as possible.
Yeah, and that's you're at the mercy of the platforms, and that's just the way they do business. And it's actually really interesting is when I think that people don't realize is that there's also a whole permissions thing that happens within the RTMP chain, and the key access and the tokens that happen that Facebook's doing behind the scenes. So you can often have different accounts that are trying to hit a stream key or a streaming destination or event on Facebook, and they don't even have the right permission sometimes to spin it up, or Facebook for whatever reason doesn't acknowledge that this person is an editor with editor powers, or this account. We've seen weird things happen with the same event from different accounts, even though they should all technically be whitelisted.
Yeah, no, that definitely had things like that in the past. So you do what you can. You plan to get around it in any way. Otherwise,
yeah, always have a plan B. Your redundancy point, I think, is absolutely critical. So So then the next question I had was, so if you you pre-scheduled whenever you could, and most of the time it worked, but sometimes it didn't. You'd have to just roll over and do another one live. Would you always let the Facebook counter count you down automatically and spin, and basically present out the
Never.
live feed? Or would you always use the
No.
manual?
Always manual. Always manual.
Okay,
Never.
Let's talk about this. I want to know more. So why that one versus the other?
Because you don't know, there's all sorts of delays between your system streaming to RTMP, between Facebook, even the Wi-Fi between, or the internet between your internet and getting up to Facebook. It could be any amount of time before your stream actually goes live. There's services now that help you get pretty close, but I would rather know exactly when I press this button, when I see what's there, I know exactly what's going to go live at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, manual is the only way to do it.
Okay, so you always manually overrode. You were watching in the Facebook sort of event manager, sort of admin section where you can choose when to override and go live manually. And so the next question I have is, do you like to immediately go live with the show opener and that sort of thing, or would you often leave up some sort of a counter or a countdown, so just kind of a pre-stream stream once you start going live?
All I want in life is the ability to trim a live video and take a counter off the beginning.
Yeah.
From
Facebook, right?
Yes,
YouTube's
Facebook.
Great already. You already have the editing capabilities in YouTube, but Facebook hasn't got that yet.
Yeah, and even Periscope is giving you start times and stuff. It would be nice if Facebook did that. I still like to have some sort of countdown because at the very least, people can see that and know that's how far you have to fast forward.
Mm-hmm.
I do like to make that a useful amount of some sort of content during that time as well. It could be popping up comments from the last show. It can be, a short 10-second loop, something that's engaging that isn't going to make people log off or stop watching after 2 minutes. They're waiting for that show to start. So there's ways to create engaging content that's short, not necessarily something that you need to be sitting there for 2 minutes to enjoy.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think giving yourself 2 minutes. We started with 5. We played with 10, and we just, it's way too long. So if you're not, and I think we found that about 2 minutes is just about the right length because it gets you live, it gives you some time to set up, things are about to happen, but as long as the content's decent. And so one of the reasons we started doing was we start bringing on just a little playlist of our studio camera. We started showing little, we intermixed with the show card with some music just to kind of keep it fun. And then the cool thing, of course, then was to bring on little comments once in a while as those start trickling in. I think that's a really good tip for people, and it gives you a little bit of a softer start time in terms of gives you an excuse to get the RTMP stream going and make sure that everything's working between you and Facebook or the platform. So it's a testing thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say things in the last year or so have gotten a lot more reliable. I trust API RTMP starts for the most part now. I'm pretty confident within about 30 seconds now. But it's just as much about getting an audience at the start of that show. But with the ability to schedule, it's become a little bit less of a concern. I give about a minute now on most of the productions that I do.
A minute, okay. Yeah, so minute, 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes might even be a little long. Okay, so you guys won an Emmy Award for that. I actually want to show you a quick clip from that, if internet willing. Here.
Just to shut up the damn audience. A local regional Emmy. It's a
I know, we got
Emmy.
Quite the heckler in this crowd. That's unusual for us. Okay, here we go. Want to make sure. Oh, did I mute this? Hold on. There we go.
God, that was actually, I think that's Elizabeth Hassig, and she was one of the anchors, News 12 where I interned.
Which is interactivity. And the Emmy goes to Mario Armstrong's Never Settle Show. Worth waiting for.
That's funny. There's the play bar at the bottom. I didn't notice that before.
Yeah. We also got La La Land. They gave the wrong person an award before.
That's funny.
Okay. One of the things that
There's Damon. Yep, and you can see here, this is the season 1 set.
Yeah.
So, guys, listen up and be ready for this. I need a PA really quick.
Oh, he's throwing a curveball at the PA.
The big things that is made out.
All right, so there's you, Ben. You're holding the camera, the iPhone camera. You've got your lighting.
Shooting
light on.
240 frames a second. Some really fun footage going up there.
Nice.
Nicole's right here waving. We were both raising our child, pursuing a dream. We cleaned up our debt, got out of that, and then decided while we were getting a bunch of no's for this idea of doing a talk show.
Okay, so if you guys want to check this out, this is at the Never Settle show. It's also on YouTube. Emmy for interactivity, and Mario gives like probably the most impassioned speech for category number 87 that I've probably ever heard. So I didn't even know there was that many categories. So how many typically are there in the award show?
So the regional Emmys have a bit more. There's a heavy focus on local news in the regional Emmys. So that's what like half of them are.
Got it.
And I'm not sure if I think the national Emmys also have some sort of interactivity award. None of them quite do it the same as we did, though. They'll have like one thing going on. They'll have like a new, an app or something. But yeah, I think the kind of interactivity that we did is really the spirit of what people should be going for with that.
I completely agree. And I think that this category is only going to get more and more relevant and more important as things go on. I mean, you start looking at things like Black Mirror and the Bandersnatch, and just interactivity is like, it's just one of the solid gold benchmarks for engaging content. So I think that we will only continue to see this category grow and more important. So I think people will be referring back to what you guys have done on that show. Okay, let's move on. If you guys have any other questions about that or sort of any of the things we talked about, around Facebook scheduling or when you should go live, how early, RTMP stuff, please feel free, chime those in. I'll try to take those. It does not look like I have the on-screen comments working yet. So again, I'm just reading them here.
Or they're just being a bunch of bullies.
Our interactivity is totally dead right now, so no worries. Just speaking of, we'll just talk about it. Do as we say, not as we do on this show. Okay. So Ben, and then from there you moved on, and you kind of, I think you said you'd been sort of moonlighting and working for Startalk in smaller capacities.
I would say moonlighting is a solid cosmic way to say that I've been doing work on the side for quite a while.
You were moonlighting. You were starlighting. So with the Neil deGrasse Tyson show on Startalk. And then eventually you jumped full time. So did you just start that last year in 2018 when you made the move?
I've been with Startalk for about 5 years now. I was I want to say a junior or a senior in college. I was a fan of the show. Right. And I said, you want help doing some video stuff? And they said, yeah, okay. So I started in a volunteer capacity there. Then they brought me on part-time as we really, I'm not going to say we pivoted to video, but we made video a big part of our strategy. And now, we do video for everything we do. We even have some original video series. So I'm basically the video guy. I also run all the tech for the podcast itself, all the audio. But anything that involves not knowing science, I have some piece of in Startalk.
All right. Well, let's play a clip from that called "The Wheel of Science."
Wheel of Science.
Hey, we're bringing science down to earth. What is this, Neil? This is Wheel of Science. Hey everybody, I'm Chuck Nice. Welcome to our newest show, Startalk's Wheel of Science. This is an interactive show where we answer your questions about the universe. And because I'm not smart enough to even answer my own questions about the universe, we have here to help out the one, the only, your own personal astrophysicist, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. What's up, Neil?
What's up, Chuck?
As usual, you don't know the questions.
That's right. I'm sitting here clueless.
Aha, but I am positive that you know the answers. Our topic today is black holes.
Let's do this. Bring it on.
All right. So we're going to stop there. If you guys want to see more clips of that, you can go to the Startalk YouTube site and check out the rest of that clip. I have to say, just on the surface here, I could not, the dichotomy between the two, the sort of, Chuck looks super perky, and then Neil looks so tired and so.
That was the first episode. We made sure everyone was a little more on the same page after that. But something to point out here is this entire series is actually on Facebook as well. Only the first 2 episodes on YouTube.
Okay.
We did the same exact thing with looking at the viewer chart, we look to see when people were tuning out, when people were tuning in. And we've significantly modified the format and timing of the show as time goes on. So
Interesting.
it's something that we had from the live mentality that I brought over to this production.
Okay.
Also, when Facebook was the people that funded this and asked us to do this show, they said we want an interactive show. So we did a lot of the same things. We had a Facebook group. We got all of our questions came from users. We did interactive polls using platform features. We did photo contests. Everything about this show, in one way or another, was dictated by fans.
Interesting. So where do people go to find it live? You were streaming it live then?
Now, those we haven't done live, but that gets me into something interesting. The world of, let's call it as live.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and YouTube have dove pretty hard into this. Things like watch parties, things like premieres of streams,
yep. Mm-hmm.
which I think is a very valuable thing. Having your audience feeling like something is live, even if it's not, the ability to interact in real time, the ability to have people talking about the same thing at the same time is something you don't get with just standard VOD videos. So you could bring live mentality to a lot of those things. So we've premiered a lot of these through those various features on Facebook and YouTube. And I felt like it got us a lot better engagement with the audience. I was able to chat with the audience in the comments the entire time. So for a VOD show, it was nice to have that live feel.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that it gives you the ability to pre-tape stuff, just work a different production schedule in. You can add more production value if you need to, and then you can still premiere it as if it was live. And as long as you're not necessarily tricking people, it's still really cool to be able to tune in and see that for the first time during the premiere or whenever it's going live for the first time. So when you do content as live, or you do, you're uploading new content typically, or you're going live to tape, are you then premiering that or streaming that on Facebook or on YouTube or any of the other channels, or does it all go to the Startalk website? Like, what's sort of the outlet for a lot of the video content, or the primary outlets for the video content you do?
So we actually, if you look at the Facebook versus YouTube versions, they're slightly different because we cut out some of the Facebook interactive elements and the things telling people. The show premiered on Facebook, so every week we would ask for new things on Facebook. We cut a lot of that in the YouTube version, so we weren't wasting people's time. We post a lot of our podcast in different ways on different platforms. We want to make sure, again, that we're platform perfect, that we're catering to the viewers on each individual platform. So we won't put long clips on Instagram. We'll only put 30 to 60-second clips. On Facebook, if it's something that could have a poll, we'll use their poll feature. We'll work within Twitter's guidelines. If we see that closed captioning is doing good, we'll put closed captioning on a different platform. So every single thing we do, it ends up in a bunch of different places, but we put an incredible amount of work to make everything work nicely on each individual platform.
Yeah, and that goes back to your comment about platform perfect content, right? Or trying to get it as platform perfect as possible.
That's my dumb, like, if I ever go on the daytime talk shows, I have to have my dumb little, this is my thing, this is my philosophy.
Platform perfect. Yes. Okay. Yes. No, I think it's a good tip because that is really that's just tailoring form to meet function and meeting your audience where they're at, not giving them something that's just totally wrong for the context in which they're consuming it. Okay, so Ben, I really appreciate your time. You've been on here for a good almost 45 minutes here and answered all my questions wonderfully. I would love to kind of leave the audience with any additional last tips in the art of live production and sort of where you're going with it from here. So what are the things that you're kind of experimenting with now? What are some things that people should be aware of to, that's either emerging technology, emerging features on platforms, and how are you what are some sort of practical advice you can leave them with to increase their own live production? We mentioned just put a little more effort in, just put a better background in, put a little more light on, just do some bring in that audience. If you have that engagement tool, that's a huge piece of it. Tailor the content to the platform for the audience. What else do you recommend, or you can think of right now, while I'm putting you on the spot, to increase that?
I got something. Okay. If I'm the most excited in live streaming and broadcast production in general, for remote production. And I'm not just talking, bring your Wirecast gear over to, your location and do your shoot there. The ability to take a camera signal, send it to a nice control room or even a cloud control room, not having to have an entire studio on site. So something that I do with bonded cellular is I'll go to a location, have one or two cameras with a basic switcher, send that back to a different control room or to some sort of cloud production software, and cut down my workflow by a lot. I see a future where multi-camera productions, and this is happening, you might not even know it now, where you have a multi-camera production that's happening in one place, but the entire back-end production is happening elsewhere. And it's making things a lot cheaper. It means that you only need one control room to do a bunch of different things. And again, cloud production too, it's the same kind of idea. My favorite tool is Vidpresso. I've mentioned them before. But the ability to add graphics in the cloud, to switch in the cloud, there is certainly benefits to having something like Wirecast or TriCast or Blackmagic on location. But I think you can do a lot more, a lot cheaper if you could start thinking remotely.
No, I think that's a really good tip, and it's something that obviously we aren't unaware of here at Wirecast and Telestream. But and in fact, Sony, I think, recently launched, or kind of an early, sort of shot across the bow of this of putting encoders on all their cameras and sort of back-ending that to a cloud studio. I think that you can start thinking about getting that remote production at home. Have you tried cloud solutions like, say, Make.tv or some of the other cloud editing or cloud switching softwares?
I haven't used too many others because I like Vidpresso so much that it's mostly what I use. I've also trying to think if there's any other explicit ones that I've used. Nothing that I can name off the top of my head. But what I would say is, if you have the ability, again, something with bonded cellular, I've even done this with just Skypes, where I've had Skype as cameras. And let's just use Wirecast as the example. As long as you have the ability to get that into your computer somehow, either through, a hardwire connection and, some sort of capture card or something, you have all the powers of Wirecast, with just a cell phone out in the field. Yes, you have Wirecast Go, you've got, the mobile apps. But I think any producer would love to be able to sit down and just have the full production suite in front of them.
Yeah, totally, completely agree. And it's really powerful. I think gone are the days of schlepping an entire studio control room into the lobby of hotels and businesses in New York. So maybe those days are done for you, Ben.
Yeah. We'll see.
Just
although
all
I
he
will
needs
say,
is camera and
encoders. To do that, I totally will do it.
He'll totally do it. Yeah, he's available. So, Ben, where can folks find out more about you and either hire you or get consulting services from you?
Sure. I'm addicted to Twitter, so you can find me on Twitter at BenMakesTV. The other places you see up there are fine, but Twitter is really the best way to get in contact with me. I will respond to some of your annoying trolly comments. You know who you are. In the comments afterwards. Thank you, Derek Westby. I'm sure you're a wonderful, kind fella. Happy to chat about all of this. If you want to talk about podcasting, live streaming and podcasting, those are other things I like to talk about a lot. Have at me.
Cool. Yeah, find him at benmakestv.com or hit him up on Twitter. Ben, it has been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show and talking a little bit about what you do and the art of live production.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. So, guys, that was Ben, and he is awesome. You can see he just knows so much about this. He's done so much work and out in New York with some very big media producers, media companies, and some big names. He is doing incredible work, and I think it's really poignant to point out that the tools that he's using to do a lot of this stuff are things that you're probably familiar with, things like LiveView, things like Wirecast, things like bonded cellular encoders and the rest of it. All of that is extremely useful, but when it comes down to it, it's all about the content. It's all about the redundancy to make sure that you have the tools in your tool bag to deal with just about anything that pops up. So always get 2 microphones, 2 cameras, make sure that you've got that redundant internet connection, and then when things still go wrong, you always have a plan B. I think live production is sort of the art of dealing with catastrophes and planning for catastrophes. I think there was a line that I heard once. It was from a movie, I think, but basically, I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but I think they're talking about a bank job or a heist, and if you guys know this movie or whatever, he's like, hey, during any bank heist or whatever, 100 things can go wrong, and if you can think of 25 of them, you're a genius. Right, so it's the same thing I think with live production. So during any live video production, 100 things can go wrong. If you can think of 50 of them, you are a genius. So with that note, we'll leave you on. We'll leave our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I liked. You guys had some really good comments, some interesting ones as well. And then we also want to say thanks to our partners for the show who make the show possible. Thanks to you, our viewers. We'll be back next Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time with El Gato and the folks over there will be talking about the Stream Deck and some of their other cool technology that you may want to take advantage of. So definitely tune in next week, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you then. Thank you. And this has been another episode of Wirecast Live. We'll see you next week.